few things. Hello, everyone. I believe we're live now. So hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Sade Murray. I'm the team lead for Employer Engagement, Outreach, and Partnership on ICTC's WIL Digital team. Thank you for joining us. Today, we also have Brian Murray from reporting and Mayar Taheen, who was Brian's work integrated learning student. So today we do have a presentation highlighting the WIL Digital program. And then we will also be looking into Brian and Mayar's experience with the WIL Digital program and what their experience looked like as an employer and student participating in the WIL Digital program. So without further ado, we can get started. Thank you for that. So, as I said, welcome. We are going to be discussing the Work Integrated Learning Program. Many of you will know it as the WIL Digital Program. Again, I'm Sade Murray, the team lead for employer engagement. So before we get into the actual program itself, I wanted to give a little bit of insight on ICTC. So what is ICTC? Who is ICTC? How do they work? We're a nonprofit organization. We foster globally competitive Canadian industries and a prosperous society empowered by innovative digital solutions. So what does that mean? It's a lot. Basically, to put it simply, if we can go back, to look at the three kind of aspects or what makes up ICTC. We have a research and policy team, also known as DT or Digital Think Tank. We are Canada's leader in research and policy on digital transformation, and I will speak to some of the statistics our research team has been able to provide further on in this presentation. We also cover studies and publication as well as policy, everything under the sun related to Canada's digital economy. From there, we have our talent programs, as you can see. The first one is our WIL Digital program, which we're speaking about today. We also have a variety of talent, DEEP, which is Digital Equity and Employability Pathways for students, Arrival to FinTech Ready, Edge Up, and Youth Dividend. Finally, wrapping all of that up, we have our education and tools. So digital youth, Cyber Titan, and FIT, which is focused on technology. From there, we can actually move on to the next section. So many of you know COVID-19 has impacted every single one of us in different ways. From a business standpoint and WIL Digital impact, I'm just going to basically provide a few statistics looking at how the digital economy was going prior to COVID and how the COVID impact has kind of shifted that. So before COVID, there was an expected demand for 193,000 workers in the digital economy between 2019 to 2022. COVID has essentially reduced this demand by 24%. Now, expected demand is 147,000 workers by 2022, with total employment reaching nearly 2 million. That being said, these numbers are constantly changing. As we know, COVID is not static, it's constantly changing. So as we get more research, we do add to this. While slightly lower than what was forecasted in our original Outlook 2023, which was just over 2.1 million, is still a significant growth rate for Canada's digital economy overall. And in terms of the technological sectors, there's still an increase there as opposed to some of the other sectors. You can also read more about this at the Digital Lead New Normal, Revised Labor and Market Outlook for 2022. You can find all this information on ICTC-CTIC.ca. Going into the actual WIL Digital program, there's a little bit of an alignment that I want to discuss with everybody. So how did the program come together? What are the aspects of the program? What can you provide us about? What information can you provide about it? The first stop we like to make known is that the program is set on future skills. So we place the students of today in the jobs of tomorrow, making sure that the students that are in study right now are ready to step into the workforce once they graduate. Feel completely comfortable stepping into everything once they've graduated. Secondly, the program is student-centered. So we do have a goals that we set up with the student. There's a learning plan, midterm tech, and final evaluation. This is to make sure that the student is actually learning on the job, that they're actually retaining the skills that they need to be successful once they step into the workforce. From there, it's a super efficient program. So we have an amazing administration team that makes this happen. And I will speak to the actual application process shortly in this presentation. However, we make it very, very easy to work with us. We're very adaptable, we're very flexible, and readily available for employers. I'm going to speak about the partnerships and jobs. So there is a section I will be discussing exploring the WIL models and its varying sectors, as well as partnerships with industry and post-secondary. These partnerships have allowed us to be successful in this program, have allowed employers to retain the talent that they would like, and we're hoping to continue to do this. From there is the industry research. So as I spoke to you earlier, some of the research that our DT or digital think tank team has completed, that is essentially how the program came about. They go out, they look at skills gaps, they look at different issues in the labor market, and then they bring that research to us, and we're able to come up with these programs, basically bridge those gaps. And then finally, we are aligned with post-secondary. So we're working with all the post-secondary institutions across Canada to make sure that we're able to provide meaningful work-integrated learning placements that will essentially ensure that the student is employable in the future. We can move on from here. So as it stands right now, due to COVID, the wage subsidy is of up to $7,500 per employer per student per term. So as an employer, you can receive multiple wage subsidies. However, per term, per student, it would be $7,500. We can go into a little bit more detail from here. So again, the wage subsidy of about 75%, a max of $7,500. This is effective until, as of today, March 31st, 2021. Placements that start after that date and we still provide a wage subsidy of 50 to 70%. So if the student falls within an underrepresented group, at that point, they would automatically be given the 70% wage subsidy. Moving on from here, how does it work? So for an employer, for a student, for the position in terms of eligibility, what can you tell us about that? So private businesses, NPOs, and until April 30th, post-secondary institutions all qualify as an employer. They must be registered in Canada. They must provide a safe workplace, have general liability insurance, and hire the student on payroll and not a contractor. This is key in ensuring that the student is actually receiving a work-integrated learning placement as opposed to just a stipend for some work that they've been able to do. For the position itself, they must be IT or IT related, and I will go into some more detail about this. However, we essentially just ask that you pull the technical component from the job. We have been able to open up our eligibility or broaden our eligibility requirements so that it includes IT related positions and jobs. It must be 16 weeks, however, this is flexible. So we do offer both full-time and part-time placements. And it can be either at a workplace or remote COVID. So this is a COVID measure. We understand that not all workplaces are open during this time. And finally, it must improve the students' employability in the future for the learning opportunities that they've been provided. Moving on from here. The students, there's basically three requirements. So the student must be registered or enrolled and able to provide proof of their enrollment at a publicly funded institution during the time of the placement. They must be Canadian citizens, permanent residents, or under refugee status in Canada, and they must be able to provide those supporting documents. And then finally, they must be legally entitled to work in Canada. Pretty simple. Moving on from here. So as I mentioned earlier, the actual application steps. So in terms of the entire program and how that would work, I'm going to go into the actual application just after this. The first step is to check your eligibility and create a profile. Does this program work for me? Based on the job that I'm looking to hire for, is this something that will work for me? You can reach out to one of our staff. You can also check out our WIL Digital website and we will provide you more insight on that. From there, we recruit an eligible student, and Brian and Mayar will be able to speak more to this as we go on, and in terms of the process and how seamless it is. And from there, we're going into the employer and student actual application. There are some questions and concerns that we need to highlight before going into the program. And finally, if there's necessary, we go into a follow-up. So from here, I'm actually going to dive deeper into step 3, the actual application process. So first things first, the employer creates a company profile. In the company profile, they're basically going to fill in their business information form. From there, they also add in the necessary information for the subsidy transfer. So this is as simple as an EFT, electronic fund transfer form, that you provide to ICTC to be able to pay you. From there, you also complete the employer placement information form. This is highlighting what role that you want to hire for, what work is the student going to be doing, how is that going to look? Very similar to what you would have put in your job posting. From there, you enter the student through your application. The student completes their application form and submits their supporting documents. So as mentioned earlier, you have to be either registered or enrolled at a secondary institution, so we will need proof of enrollment as well as proof of citizenship. So as soon as that's provided to us, the application is submitted. Our team reviews the application. Here we say that we allow for about 10 to 12 working days. However, on average, our admin team does try to get back to employers much faster than that. On average, it's about 5 to 7. It can take up to 2 weeks if we have a high influx of applications, but we do try to minimize the employer's waiting time. Finally, if there are any questions or concerns with the actual application, then we will reach out to you within 24 to 48 hours of you actually submitting the application to have these issues resolved. There, application is approved and the contract is issued. At this point, you know that you're going to have your funding. We've guaranteed it, and we can get underway with the actual program. So moving on from here, I just want to highlight some of the most common reasons for declining an application. So if the student has already started work, the student was hired as a contractor and not an employee. And again, just highlighting the fact that we want to make sure that the student has all of the work integrated learning components with their placement. So little things like knowing how to call in sick, how to have discussions with your boss, how to write emails, things like that. We really want to make sure that the student is an employee so that they are receiving this type of mentoring as opposed to just being a contractor. As it stands right now, again, international students do not qualify. If the position is not IT or IT digital related, at that point we will reach out to you for clarification before declining. However, we do ask that the positions all be IT or IT related. If the student is taking a break and not enrolled during the placement, so let's say we have a third-year student and they've decided that they want to take a year off before completing their 4th year. Unfortunately, we will not be able to fund this student. However, if it is part of a work term or a co-op, or they're still enrolled part-time during the placement, at that point we would still be able to fund it. Finally, if the student is the employer's direct family member, unfortunately we cannot fund that either. Moving on from here. As I mentioned earlier, one of the sections that we have in our program is the newest section, a new perk, is the WIL Digital models. So these models are the next and most innovative generation of work integrated learning. Our high-tech models align with technical and job readiness skills to prepare post-secondary students for future careers in 5 high-demand sectors. These sectors that you see here, so fintech, intelligent retail, advanced manufacturing, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. Students being in relevant roles have the opportunity to participate in one of the models if they choose, if the employer and student decide to take that on. Upon completion of the course, students will have acquired the skills necessary to enter the workforce and be a productive contributor. So it's not just about kind of having a work placement and then just going out into the workforce. It's actually about the student being able to be onboarded and producing and contributing positively to business development and the overall placement. Will also receive an electronic certificate highlighting their contributions and completion. This can be added to the student's portfolio, making them a stronger candidate or employee as soon as they actually graduate from the placement. Moving on from here, and just to kind of wrap it up before we jump into Brian and Mayor's discussion, I want people to know why choose ICTC. So what makes ICTC so different than the other partners or anybody else out there that's offering funding? For one thing, the edition of the models really separates our ability to access and provide industry insight. So we have industry insight, and so do you as the employer. In this case, you're able to basically shape how the industry will go. You have access to the freshest talent on the market, newest and freshest talent on the market. So in that case, you're really able to connect with the new minds, shape the talent, and look towards a better digital future for Canada's economy. There is the business growth and development aspect of it as well. So we have had, it is rare, but there are cases of successful businesses actually growing during COVID due to funding. We've had businesses go from 6-person companies all the way up to 30, 50 people companies in the span of just under a year, with help from ICTC's funding. And Brian will also be able to speak to his experience with growth within using ICTC's funding. From there, the ability to train and mentor and improve students' employability in the future. Students today are the future of tomorrow. Making sure that they are ready to step into the jobs of tomorrow is key in ensuring business continuity, growth, and success for Canada's digital economy. And finally, we offer support and assistance. Like I mentioned, our administration team is amazing. They really are on the ball. They're super attentive, and we try to provide insight and as much assistance as we can throughout this entire process. So thank you. That's it for our presentation on the WIL Digital side. And we do have our two partners here, Brian and Mayar, as I've been mentioning throughout the presentation. And we do have a few questions that we posed. And you guys as well in the audience will be able to pose questions to myself, Brian and Mayar about the WIL Digital program and our experiences. So from here, Brian and Mayar, I want to turn it over to you just to do a brief introduction to yourself before we go into the question and answer period.
Sure. My name is Brian Murray. I'm the director for Academic Edge. Academic Edge develops a software called Reach Boarding. We work with boarding schools throughout Canada, the United States, and around the world, ensuring security, ensuring student safety, and risk management. We applied for some ICTC funding probably about 8 or 9 months ago now, and through that process I was able to meet Mayar, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello everyone, I am Mayar. I'm a 4th-year student at Acadia University, and I've been working with Brian for the last 8 months, starting May, I believe, and continue to love the journey. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So I know that, Brian, you've just given us a little bit of an overview of your company and some of the work that you've done. Would you be able to speak to an overview of the project that Mayar was involved in? And Mayar, maybe you can also speak to your experience working on that project.
Sure. Mayar came into the Reach fold, like he mentioned, in May, June. In early July, we started to get phone calls from our current clients asking us for a solution for surveys. So as students are returning to school, they needed a way to quickly survey a student every day before they arrive on campus to ensure that they're symptom-free. We didn't have a tool. So we pulled our development team together, Mayar being new to the group, and I posed the challenge to develop a product that we could add to our suite of tools very quickly. And so our team got to work. Mayar was integral in that process, and in about 3 weeks' time, we released a tool to about 100 schools that they started to use right away. And about 3.5 months into it, I think we've done 1.4 million surveys. And Mayar and the rest of the team were really quick to turn it around. If you know anything about software development, it doesn't happen in 3 weeks. And so the team was able to do that.
Perfect.
Definitely, that one was a very rush. Like we had to do it in 3 weeks, and it paid off. It helped students being safe, and surveying people for their symptoms in the morning and so on. That was very good experience to have.
What would you say the most difficult aspect of that experience was for you, and what would you say you learned the most in that and during that time period?
The idea came very abruptly, and because same with COVID-19, it just came suddenly, and we have to handle it. And the system wasn't built for it. So the thing we really had to learn and adapt for is to adjust the system to work to new requirements. It wasn't really built for it, and we had to adjust many things. And doing that is a really good experience, because usually you build the system from the ground up, and that's how it works. Adjusting a system is one of the hardest things.
Makes sense. So what skills do you think you've gained from that experience that will make you more employable or help you in the future?
Being under pressure. I think the pressure, being able to manage my time to deliver on time, as well as being adaptable. Try to learn something new in order to fit the requirement, because at the end we have to deliver a product that meets the requirements.
Of course.
Shade, for this particular project, I mean, it was very real world. It was something that we needed to deliver, not in a lab, but actually in real world to help schools make sure that they can still function. And it's probably one of the things I'm most proud about in the last year of our company, is the ability to deliver that really quickly and have a group of people, Mayar included, who were all in.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think even Mayar, just speaking to your experience, going from having that student's perspective to really stepping into that real world, this is live, this is happening, society needs us now, has really provided a very unique experience. So thank you for that. For Brian, back to you. So how do you think that, what skills do you think the student or Mayar had originally brought to the table, and what skills do you think that this project has allowed him to kind of maybe develop, or what kind of new things have come from this project that he didn't originally have?
Sure. I think Mayar came into the company as a highly skilled developer already. I think our team has been most impressed with his background, his ability to produce, the skills that he had acquired probably on his own and at Acadia were excellent. So he came to us ready to go. I think that the skills that he developed and learned through the process. So we're an international organization. We have offices in the UK and Australia. And so our main core developers are in Australia. So working with them, trying to coordinate time with them, making an argument of how something should be done, proving that's the way it should be done, and then doing it. I think that aspect, you can't teach that. You can't. That's something that you have to come into an environment and experience, and have a boss and have some pressure. And I think he's done it really, really well.
Perfect. I think that's great to kind of see how this experience has helped to kind of shape. Again, I always say it's the minds of tomorrow and the future of tomorrow. So that's perfect. Mayar, based on this experience, do you feel that you're prepared for other opportunities in stepping into the workforce? Do you feel like you could step into a job right now and you're like, you know what, I'm ready to take on the world. I can do this again and again and again. Do you feel that this WIL Digital experience has prepared you for that?
Definitely. So the real world experience has made me better prepared for newer and future jobs. I wouldn't say fully prepared. There's a lot to learn yet, but it has taught me a lot of things and a lot of experiences. And I think I'll be able to bring those experiences with me to my newer job in the future.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's definitely great. Brian, turning it back over to you. How does the WIL Digital program specifically help your company in terms of growth and development? Obviously, we have Mayar here as an example, great example based on everything that he's brought to the table and the projects he's been able to work on. But overall, in general, how do you think that ICTC has contributed to your business?
Yeah, I think in two ways. I think that it offers the ability for companies to bring in a fresh perspective. Mayar arrives, no preconceived notions about anything that's happened in the past, has offered some interesting ideas and concepts that we hadn't really thought of in terms of approach. He brings in, and most students would, brings in kind of cutting edge software development technology. And so that's been really, really helpful. When you're in it and your head's down at the keyboard and you don't really get a time to take a breath and look around, bringing a student in, I think forces you to do that. The second is cash flow. It provided funding for us to be able to hire 2 students this summer. They both came in and had immediate impact, and it helped with cash flow. So for me, it's a no-brainer. And if I'm so lucky, I'll apply again in the future.
Perfect. That was going into my next question here. So, based on your experience now, you do have future plans for engaging with students. It's been successful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually just submitted another application for next term too. So
Perfect.
I'm in if you got me. So I think there are things in business that are no-brainers. And not only is the funding important, but the process, making sure that you're matching with the right student, asking ahead of time what skills are you going to offer, checking in with the student midterm to make sure that it is working the way it's supposed to work, and then the final evaluation at the end. I don't know, as I'm a former educator, I spent 20 years in the classroom, and the process to me made a lot of sense.
Yeah, okay, perfect. We love to hear it. We love to hear it. Love the feedback. For Mayar, turning it back over to you, what would you say the most helpful aspect of this WIL work term was for you? So in terms of, again, looking towards your future and employability in the future, is there something that stood out to you? So maybe it was having the opportunity to sit down and create a learning plan and really execute it. What was the most helpful aspect of the work for you?
I think it was being able to handle and tackle real-world challenges. We usually just have an assignment or a project that's been already defined how to do it, while if you're working out in the field, there's always the time where you have to improvise and try to make things work. That is not something you learn at school. Being in the field is definitely had taught me that, and it would definitely help having that experience tackling bigger projects in the future, knowing that hopefully I can get involved in artificial intelligence and so on. It would need someone to have that experience of improvising and being able to redefine the project or the task as we go.
Sade, I remember the first few weeks Mayar was here, he was working on some code and it got pushed live. So it went out to our user base, which is approaching 1 million users. And I said, hey man, 1 million people are just using now what you developed last week. So those aren't things you can replicate in a classroom for sure.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love to hear it. Our entire program loves to hear it. Just before we wrap it up and go to questions, what would you say to other employers that are maybe a little bit hesitant to hire students? And Mayar, what would you say to some of these students that are a little bit hesitant to maybe step out and really take on those real life working projects and go and actually find employment opportunities as a student? Brian, maybe you can speak to your experience in relation to the employment aspect, and then Mayar, your experience as a student.
Go ahead, Mayar.
Okay, I think students should look for it. It might feel scary being in a job and everyone expects you to finish something, but that's not the case. Being a co-op student, being in a WIL program, the employer understands that you're learning as you're doing something. So it's not the same pressure as if you leave school, graduate, and you have a full-time job. At that time, you're required to finish a task because you're expected to know it. It's a time to learn, so I advise all students to try it out. And if it doesn't work out, blame me.
I love it. I love it. And Brian, from your
I guess I'd echo that as well. I think that students come in very keen and they want to do well. So the apprehension, I think, is you're operating a business and things need to go well, and you need to continue forging on. You shouldn't be apprehensive about hiring students. I think they come in, they're well trained. The students that we've had access to at Acadia have been outstanding. The process itself is thoughtful. It's not onerous at all. It's asking what it needs to ask. It reminds you when you haven't done something, and I don't think anybody would find it tedious. The results at the end help you organize the program itself. Again, I think it's a no-brainer.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you for that, and thank you for your willingness to contribute on our webinar and taking the time out of your day. We really appreciate that. And thank you to everyone who logged on to listen to Brian and Mayar's perspective, as well as how the WIL Digital program kind of works and runs and things like that. At this time, I would like to essentially open up the floor for questions. So I see that we actually have one right now, and this is for Brian. So I can ask that to you.
Please.
Let me pull it up here. So from your perspective, how long have you been hiring students, and what's the difference in hiring students without funding versus with funding?
The second one's easy. I deem it worth it. I think that the ROI, paying out of pocket without funding, certainly it's nicer with funding, but I've hired without funding. The students have come in. I've had all positive experiences. We've been hiring students now for several years, and I've had 100% success. I think part of the journey has to be an understanding on part of the employer. Mayar referenced this earlier, that you're not getting a seasoned full stack developer coming into your organization. You're getting a student who has taken lots of computer science classes, that has an interest in becoming a software developer. And if you're willing to hold the hand a little bit, have some patience, offer some flexibility, I think you're going to have a great experience. So I've done both. I've hired with and without funding, and it's something that I'll continue to do. I think it's a really fresh way to operate a small business.
Yeah, of course. Perfect. Thank you for that. We do have a second question here. This one is for me, and the question reads, so sorry, do part-time students qualify as well? So yes, we can actually, our program actually funds both full-time and part-time students, as well as full-time and part-time placements. This means that if you wanted to have a situation, we can use Brian and Mayar as our example because we have them on the line here. If Brian decided that he wanted to hire Mayar on a part-time basis to do work, as let's say in the summertime, Mayar's work went so well, everything was proper, successful. But Mayar's like, you know what, I want to go back to school. I need to focus on just school without working. Brian's like, I need to keep you. So within that, we want to have you part-time. We can still fund that placement. We can still provide the subsidy. You may not reach the maximum amount of the subsidy. However, you could still receive a 75% subsidy of what wages you pay to the student. So thank you for that one. I see another comment coming in here. So this one is for Mayar. I know you had explained that you were in a fourth year program, but do you think that this experience will be helpful in terms of completion of your study. So we can maybe take it going back to a class perspective. So in the classroom and stuff, has this experience kind of made it easier to work in a classroom setting? Has it made it more difficult? Are you ready to take on the workforce, or are you more, if you still want that schooling aspect? What has that experience been for you?
It definitely helps going back to school. If you still have, major programming courses, it would make things easier since you already gained more experience in programming. But sometimes if you've done it for a long time, so like a year of working, and now you want to go back to school, you would feel kind of bored. You don't want to study anymore. But it's not always the case. It's just, now I have to go back to school. I have to do assignments. There's no sense of doing assignments. I know how to do it, but it's part of learning. You learn the concept and the structure of things in school, and you need that to apply it in a job, as well as the experience that you learn from a job that you would need for your future. So I think they go hand in hand. Both of them are important. School helps job, and the job helps the school.
Perfect. Here is a question for myself. So, can multiple departments in the post-secondary institutions hire? Yes. As of right now, so going into the winter term, so January through April term, we do allow for institutions to hire their own students. So if a department head or whatever the case is, they have a project that they'd like for you to work on, or you have a group of students who are struggling to find employment, or whatever the case is, institutions can actually hire their own students, and ICTC can fund those placements. In relation to that, please feel free to email me. I know that I've placed our contact details in the chat, but s.murray@ictc-ctic.ca. Please feel free to send me an email and we can discuss further. As of right now, thank you for that. As of right now, I'm not seeing any more questions or comments in the chat. But like I said, please feel free to reach out to myself, Shade Murray, at ICTD. If you guys would like to connect with Brian or Mayar to talk more about their experiences, again, feel free to reach out to me and we can make that connection there. Thank you everyone for your time, for your taking time out of your day to sit in on another webinar. Thank you, Brian and Mayar. I cannot thank you guys enough for your insight and your basically telling the world how your experience has been, not only with ICTC, but the WIL Digital program in general, and Mayar for you in terms of how much more ready you are for the future, for your future employment. So I thank you guys immensely for that. And we hope to continue our relationship, Brian, with your partnerships that are available. Oh,
absolutely.
We actually have another question. So how long is the funding available at 75%? As of right now, we have it available until April 30th, 2021. However, this could change. We're still in discussions. This could change. The program is fluid. We understand that there are impacts of COVID, and while COVID is changing rapidly, we have no choice but to do the same and change with it. So as of right now, that's what we have. Perfect. Are there any more questions, concerns? No? Okay, I think we can wrap it up here. Thank you everyone for your time and energy and stepping into the call. Please feel free, like I said, you can email me, call me at any time. Our team is available to help and we have lots of WIL subsidies available. Please apply.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.